some more market trends to watch in the chip and AI space. Let's welcome in our next guest. Zeno Mercer is Senior Research Analyst at Vetify. He joins me now at the desk. Zeno, great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
It's certainly a big week for big tech, and AI, of course, will be a central focus when all of these, 5 of the Mag 7, actually report. So help set the stage for us, just in terms of your expectations, in terms of what we should expect to hear about AI. Is it this just continuing to spend, or will we hear more and more about monetization?
Yeah, I mean, from a game theory perspective, none of them are really going to pull the brakes yet on spending and CapEx on deployment. For monetization, I mean, you're hearing lots of their AI labs and new products pushing forward. We saw Google Jarvis pop out about their new AI agents coming out, so a side project. But really, we're looking for just increased clarity on the CapEx deployments in the U.S. We obviously have had other big news in the last couple of weeks from Taiwan Semiconductor's fab plant in the U.S. with positive yields. So if you're kind of tying in what is this like 5-year story looking like, we obviously are looking at earnings this week, but really it all kind of ties into we have to go back into the supply chain, and if they want to actually keep building these out for years to come, they want to have this, like, there's a whole ecosystem that goes into play. But we're not really expecting anything out of the ordinary, just expecting kind of no major, we're not expecting anything unusual to come out. I think the analysts are going to be pretty on target, and we're going to keep seeing spending here.
It's just a matter, I think, if the bar is too high in terms of how the stocks will actually react to these reports, even if they do come in line or better than expected. You mentioned the news out of TSMC. What were the biggest takeaways from that in terms of overall chip demand?
There have been a lot of fears that they wouldn't be able to recreate their productivity here in the U.S., and it's really important because we're going to have higher base cost over here. So like construction and manufacturing ongoing costs are just higher here. So the ability that these yields are higher is a really good signal that we're going to be able to de-risk that, and be able to build in America. So I think that's a major thing. Obviously, they've had some pull through from the CHIPS Act, and there's many more, 3 or at least 2 more fab plants expected to come on over the coming years to service this growing demand for AI chips and the integration and requirements that are ahead.
What does that mean for Intel?
Yeah, I mean, further, not generally good news. Again, they're not really leading the way here. They're not pioneering. In our Think Artificial Intelligence Index, which we launched in 2018, we've never added Intel to the index. We never saw it as a leader, and clearly it has a lot of figuring out to do here.
But does have government money, or is expected to get government money.
I think I made a joke the day they got $8 billion. I was like, my stock would be up higher. Their stock was down the day they got announced $8 billion, I think, in funding.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Although a guest earlier in the show did have Intel as a pick, so there is some bullishness out there. In terms of the news flow, Apple obviously in focus today. We were talking about this during the break. You have the iPhone 15, so you've been able to play around with some of the new
I'm on the beta.
Apple Intelligence beta features. What's your takeaway so far? This is our channel check here.
Yeah, so I mean, I find some of the summaries useful, but everything I'm seeing is something that every other player will be able to do, right? So right now, most people use AI as a interface like we do with Google Chat, right? It's a one-on-one. The future of AI and AI agents is being able to integrate directly into the data, so kind of APIs and databases. So a lot of companies that expect Apple Intelligence to be this new revenue cycle, I mean, the bar is just rising for everyone. So we actually think there's more competitors going to be able to compete with Apple. But sure, it's going to be a net positive for everyone out there to be able to spend less time navigating user interfaces, have more content tailored to you. It's generally a win-win. I mean, they're obviously partnering with ChatGPT, so they kind of have this hybrid situation where they're doing Siri locally, and if they can't solve that problem, which that's a problem in and of itself, like understanding what you can and cannot do, that's important for humans, that's important for these, personal AI devices. But I mean, we're heading to a world where we do have hybrid AI, where these local AI models are able to be very competent and then, can signal to the cloud. But increasingly, that might reduce dependence on cloud models as these local models get better.
So talk to me about this, because you say the future is hybrid AI. Explain to me what that actually means, and then who actually benefits from hybrid AI in terms of companies.
Yeah, well, society benefits because it's going to reduce gatekeeping of a lot of services, technologies, reducing friction. I mean, a 5-year-old and my grandmother, who's was 100+ years old, should both be able to interact with technology, be able to not search and be flustered. In terms of companies, well, companies like this year alone in the Think Index, we've reduced our holdings into companies like, we actually reduced positions in Salesforce and Wix. And that's because we're seeing more and more kind of AI to AI integrations, and that, as I mentioned, or we were talking earlier, these AI agents can navigate human design websites, but those are kind of clunky for these companies. So we expect to see more, I need a task done, it'll go directly to the source and not have to navigate the kind of clunky interfaces that we have today. And also from a technical positioning moat standpoint, people are looking at, Salesforce might be able to monetize these agents. Well, everyone's able to make these agents right now. Like, that is becoming table stakes, and also the bar is rising for everyone. So not necessarily seeing a competitive, like, we're seeing moats erode for some of these companies where kind of this, as we're automating more things, and as regulation requires this to be deployed. I mean, the U.S. is exploring using AI in the government. One of the biggest areas they're looking at is like, how do we make sure that this is not only fair and biased and working, but how does it fit in the regulation? So we're more bullish on companies providing that observability layer, like Datadog. So we've been increasing, kind of what does this tech stack of the future or near future look like?
And these AI agents that you speak of, I mean, where are we actually seeing those right now? Because we're not seeing them on the iPhones with these new Apple Intelligence updates.
No, so these AI agents right now are kind of coming in the form as kind of first tier or low-hanging fruit of knowledge bases for workers at companies, or even chatbots. So we're seeing that for customer service. We're seeing that integrated. Now we have voice capabilities with a lot of AI agents, so they can actually intake flows. So instead of getting to a phone and press 1 if you want to hear more, we're going to be able to communicate. It'll understand intent and get you to the right place faster, the answer faster.
So who still has room to run then, in terms of, because obviously we're seeing the AI power play, because all of these systems take a lot of power.
Sure.
The chips, we've seen the NVIDIAs of the world obviously benefit in a huge way because of the chip strength. Are there any other plays that haven't, seen the benefits yet?
I would say some of the winners are less clear in terms of some of the current leaders in that space. Twilio, for example, there's a lot of API calls and working with telecommunications, but again, we're entering a new paradigm where if you look at the biggest companies of 1990s before the internet took off, they're not the same companies today. So we're again looking at companies that are positioned for kind of two different tangents of outcomes, whether open source AI takes off and everyone, AI becomes utility and democratized. That's one angle. So again, looking at infrastructure players that provide the backbone to these. So less so kind of the application layer so far.
Okay. And then just to bring it back to Apple, because that's obviously a key focus this week and today, anything that you've seen at this point playing around with beta that would cause an upgrade cycle, this huge upgrade cycle that the bulls are hoping for?
No, and they're going to be very careful. They don't want to see anything catastrophic come out, but so far nothing has been, it's clear, like there's not a huge major upgrade cycle coming, and they're not even operating, I think, in parts of Europe now because of regulation concerns. So, and in China, they're going to have to play ball a little differently with local partners. So it is a little bit more complicated than that, the story that a lot of people are saying about this upgrade cycle happening. I think we're going to have to wait and see. There's not that big of a difference between a 14 and a 16 right now. So I don't think it's there yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll leave it there. Zeno, really appreciate your insights. Thanks so much for breaking it all down for us. That's Zeno Mercer from Vetify.